The 23-year history of the Dallas Cowboys is steeped in a winning tradition that has produced an illustrious honor roll of outstanding players. These men, so famous, so celebrated, became collectively known as America's team. But this long line of white-hatted heroes has not been without its black sheep, the most infamous being Duane Thomas. Thomas was the Cowboys' #1 draft pick in 1970, a choice that stunned the critics. But his distinctive running style ate up yards, and doubters ate their words.
Duane Thomas was a unique player when he came into the league because he had a very unusual gliding motion when he ran. He would look like he was going maybe 3/4 the speed, and then he would see an opening and would have a very, very smooth burst and a very good feel when he got into the secondary.
Thomas gained over 800 yards in his rookie year, and his rushing average was the highest in the NFL. He could also block and catch. He was a complete running back, cast in the mold of Jimmy Brown, who appeared to be a model team player.
And it was something that I didn't mind doing. I didn't mind paying the price to win, because that's what I was there for. You know, people unite on the basis of what they have in common. And football was something that we all had in common, and we united on that. And we were able to achieve this goal. And that had a domino effect, because everyone had something to contribute.
The Cowboys won their first NFC championship in 1970, but smiles disappeared the next year when Thomas proved a goldfish can behave like a shark in the same fishbowl.
I thought he was going to be one of the greatest running backs of all time. And then unfortunately something happened in his second year that changed his whole attitude, and then it got to be very miserable to be around.
During the off season after that year, it looks and appears that he did get on drugs after that year, and then when he came back, you can never tell what he was going to be like in any given day. You might walk by him one day and he would say, you say hello to him, and he would say hello to you. The next day he'd say, hey, leave me alone. Yeah, don't talk to me.
These forces, whatever they were, whether it was an agent or his feelings towards life, he went into a shell, and he was tough to communicate with, and it affected his play and it affected his opportunities in the National Football League.
1971 was the silent season of Duane Thomas. A loner, isolated from the team, he became an enigma, known as the Sphinx.
I made a statement prior to going into the season. I said, gentlemen, this is my last interview. Believe me. Because what? I'm going to work. That's why I was brought up. Because we were brought up this way. When you're working, you don't talk. Because you get more things done.
In 1971, although Thomas ran silent, he ran deep. He gained over 800 yards and scored the most touchdowns by any runner in the league. But for all the excitement he created on the field, off it, he created turmoil and tension.
When you got that kind of tension in your football team, it's pretty tough. And he would be in a meeting room, and he'd have his head down, his eyes closed the whole time. He'd never look or talk or anything in the meeting room.
At the early meeting, you were considered late if you didn't answer your name when it was called on roll. And so Duane never answered his name. And usually they would skip over it. This one particular day, the guy who was calling roll, for some reason decided that, Duane was going to answer here or, like everybody else. And he said Thomas, and Duane said nothing. He said Thomas. And finally, he said Thomas maybe 10 times, and Duane didn't say anything. So I think it was Mike Ditka stood up and said, well, Duane, if you're here, why don't you answer like the rest of us? And, Duane sort of looked at him and smiled at him, and he was sitting in these, we were sitting in these little elementary school seats, these primary school seats. And he just took a seat and reversed it and faced the back of the room.
I would have probably suspended any other player that would have acted as he did. And the reason that we could tolerate him is that he never made any errors when he went on the field. So obviously he's listening and he was studying. And the result was we were able to go to the Super Bowl, but it was almost unreal the way he was that particular year.
Thomas almost burnt down the house the Cowboys had carefully built, but he ran through the fires like a man wearing an asbestos suit. He ran Dallas to their second straight NFC title and into Super Bowl VI, where his legs carried them to their first world championship. Not lost amidst Super Bowl euphoria was Tom Landry's uncharacteristic coddling of Duane Thomas, a fact that came to bear the next season.
Tom Landry is pretty consistent as far as how he treats players. Duane was a very difficult situation and had to be treated a bit different, or they would have had to get rid of him immediately. Landry really tried to work with Duane.
No one knew how I was going to react or how he was going to react, so therefore you had tension all the time.
Of course, you had to treat Duane Thomas one way and 44 players a different way, and I just never felt like that was a good situation to be in, and I'm sure that Coach Landry felt like he could bring him around, but eventually, he just felt like it was, he didn't have any choice and he had to get rid of it.
It came to force the next season in training camp when Duane did not go to practice. He was traded to San Diego.
The Chargers tried to get Thomas in step, but he had become a morose, tragic figure, a shell of the player he once was. In San Diego, he not only wasn't heard, he wasn't seen. He suited up for only one game, but didn't play. He ended up with the Redskins in 1974, where his career finally became a corpse. To this day, the Sphinx remains a riddle that may never be solved.
Would it be a safe conclusion to make that Duane Thomas let his performance and not his words speak for him?
Evidently.